This is the Comedy Kiosk, podcast by Monday and Munoz. Please welcome Monday and Munoz.
Welcome to the Comedy Kiosk, a podcast in which we discuss news, ideas, and opinions about comedy. I'm David Munoz.
And I'm Igor Monday.
And today's topic is going to be musical comedy.
Dun, 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 punchline. Is that what it is?
What?
I've never done. Have you ever tried doing musical comedy?
No, I have not.
Actually, I have. I'm lying. I have, yeah. I remember in one of the first bars that we did English comedy here, there was a guitar on the wall. There was always an acoustic guitar hanging on the wall in kind of on the stage, or basically next to the stage. And I remember, I'm not sure, because it was approximately 6-7 years ago. I'm not sure, was it planned or improvised? Maybe I came up with this, on the way to the bar. Maybe I came up with this while another comic was on stage. Maybe I just went on stage and picked up that guitar. I'm not sure now, because I genuinely can't remember. But the bit was, I went on stage, I sat down on a bar stool. Well, I picked up the guitar, sat down. Just a little bit of crucial information. I cannot play the guitar or sing. I have zero musical talent.
Yeah,
I think
that's obvious.
I think I have some musical talent, but I never pursued it. So I have never learned how to play any instruments or anything. Right? So I pick up the guitar. I sit down on a bar stool. I kind of like pretend I'm tuning it for like 1 minute, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Right? Just kind of
twanging and turning knobs.
Yeah. And then I just like strum it, like pretend to hit a chord or something, and I start like this kind of strumming the guitar with no absolute like melody or anything, and singing like, if I could sing, I wouldn't be doing stand up. That's it. And that was the end of the song. Basically that was the joke, right? I obviously can sing, and if I would get all that attention and women and fame and money through that, not through telling some silly little jokes on stage.
Got it.
And that was my only foray into musical comedy.
All right, fair enough. I've never actually even tried it, but I have been a big fan of it at times, depending on who's doing it. I gotta say, probably the first sort of in the first group of like comedians that I started listening to and really liking was Doug Anthony All-Stars, DAAS, from Australia. 3 guys. Oh God, what are their names? There was totally forgot. Richard, Tim,
Mitch,
and something or other. Anyway, the point is, they were really funny. And they also had songs about like just inappropriate things. They had jokes about the fire in Waco and stuff, and all this sort of like things. They sang songs about necrophilia, bestiality, S&M, all this sort of stuff, but in a really happy, jaunty sort of things. Joan of Arc, they had a song about Joan of Arc, which turned really sexual towards the end of it. Just really messed up. Absolutely brilliant. Loved it. They were absolutely amazing at it. And they had like that banter on stage of like 3 guys who hated each other, or like they had to work together, but they had obviously their problems. Like one of them was the idiot. The other one was excessively aggressive. The other one thought he was the pretty boy, and they were all making fun of each other and hitting it. And it was all scripted, but it was just brilliantly done. And even to this day, I actually use one of their bits when I'm hosting some shows, depending. And I give them full credit. I'm like, this is not my bit. This is by Doug Anthony All-Stars, where I do the moral judgment sort of thing, where I do a bit where it's like you're walking along the path, you see a bird with a broken wing, and it's a beautiful summer day. And, what do you just do? You have on you a hammer. And it then proceeds on. And basically, by the end, how people laugh, you just base your moral judgment on that. Like, okay, this is the type of jokes we can make. Because eventually it gets very, very dark. So they do very dark comedy.
Eventually gets dark. The first question you ask is like, you see a hurt bird, do you smack it with a hammer?
Exactly. And then it gets darker.
And then eventually it gets dark.
Oh, it gets a lot darker. And that's the best part about it. It's so inappropriate. It just makes you go, oh dear Lord. But it's done with such a fun atmosphere. So, and Doug Anthony also says, there's songs, I still have them to this day. I have the Doug Anthony All-Stars album from that show on my phone, and every so often I will listen to it from front to back, even though I can't see it visual. Just the songs are hilarious, and they're catchy.
I think my first experience with musical comedy came through YouTube. Basically, I think it was the time of Lonely Island dropping their kind of Jizz in My Pants and those kind of hits. And maybe before that, even Bo Burnham's songs that he made like in his room,
Yeah.
which was like the attic of his house, and he was maybe like 16.
Right.
And he had like a synthesizer
Yeah.
keyboard
Yeah.
and a guitar, and he would write and perform these songs on like a camcorder he would record himself with and put it on YouTube. Really, he was a kid back then, and like kind of he had but already had like I think hundreds of thousands if not millions of views gradually, of course.
Yeah.
And around that time I think I also found Dimitri Martin, who is a one-liner comedian mostly,
Yeah.
but he does a lot of kind of what he calls jokes with a guitar or something like this,
Yeah,
where he
right,
just
right.
plays the guitar in the background and tells his one-liners.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think it also kind of works as this, let's say, some kind of atmosphere building
Mm-hmm.
instrument for that type of like, deadpan one-liner delivery.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think this was my first contact with musical comedy, and I would say that to this day I still enjoy all three of these. Like
Same,
Lonely
yeah.
Island kind of stopped doing stuff. They released 3 albums, I think, and they at one point became like really popular and commercial on YouTube at least. And of course Andy Samberg built a huge acting career and TV career
Yep.
on the back of all of that, plus SNL and everything. Bo Burnham became huge, especially his last 2 Netflix specials.
Yeah, the COVID one and stuff.
Yeah, that one especially. And Dimitri Martin never, I think, gained
He's
that
an
kind of-
old comic. Like he's got his clique. He's got his niche.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that guy's just. It's one of those. Yeah, as an alternative comic, that the thing is you don't go mainstream, but you find your niche, and sometimes your niche can last you a lot longer than mainstream.
and another
comedian.
YouTube guy that kind of disappeared after that and then showed up maybe a year ago or something during the pandemic.
Reemerged?
Yeah, was John Lajoie. I think that's how it's pronounced because he's
No
like
idea what the hell
he's-
you're talking about
He's
there,
French Canadian. I think if I do tell you some songs, maybe then you will know. Maybe not. Maybe you were at that point too old for that.
Okay,
But-
hit me, hit me. Sing it. Sing a
but
song.
I
Sing one of
will,
your songs.
but wait for it. Even like recently, I put on a playlist. I think on YouTube or somewhere
Mm-hmm.
it was a playlist of greatest 2000s hits.
Uh-huh.
And you got your like Shakira's, Rihanna's, Beyonce's, Lady Gaga's, I don't know, Usher's, Eminem's, and stuff on there, and John LaJoie. This like just random comedy rap shit, right? And maybe you know the songs. So he was MC Vagina. That was one of his characters.
Can you sing a bit of it?
Vagina, vagina. I wanna put my dick in your vagina.
Oh my
Something like
god!
this.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, do
so
you know Everyday Normal Guy? I'm just an everyday, usual, normal guy, or whatever it went, something like this, where he's like just kind of, he's rapping, but he's like rapping about just normal things. Like, and when I come home, first thing I take off are the socks. And then my boss calls me and I'm like, I didn't do the thing I should have done for tomorrow. And then he's just like kind of everyday normal guy, but he's like rapping aggressively about it.
Right.
And then this like MC Vagina character, he's just like disrespecting women. But I mean, that's the character, and he's in a funny way. And he had a bunch of like songs and clips on YouTube, and it was pretty good. And he disappeared. Then he reemerged recently. But yeah, I don't think he ever took it commercially. I think he has a like normal job and stuff. But he was one of those YouTube content makers back in 2010, maybe.
all right,
or
so he
something
made a
like this.
name for himself. Then he disappeared for a while and he's come back.
Yeah, but still as is kind of a YouTube
Yeah.
thing. It never went further than that.
Okay.
Unlike some, of course, like musical comedians who sold out huge kind of theaters and stages, like Tim Minchin with an actual orchestra.
He was gonna mention, like, he was one of the ones that I watched. I
You
was
were
like,
gonna
my
mention?
God, yeah. What?
You were going to mention, yeah?
Yeah, I was gonna mention Minchin.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're always gonna mention Minchin. It's it's one of those things. But yeah, no, Tim Minchin, like and the thing is interesting because I like reading, like, he's been doing some acting since, and he's actually recently he's just released a proper album, like not comedy, like a real album, because the whole thing was he really wanted to do just normal music. He just fell into the whole comedy circuit thing because it was kind of, I think it was his way of like being able to kind of express his ideas, his ideologies, his beliefs and things in a funny song. And I loved it. Like, but he has some like serious, beautiful songs. Like for me, every Christmas, I always like to listen to White Wine in the Sun because it's a very typical, it's not a comedy song. It's a beautiful song that he's written about for his daughter, for Future, basically expressing that she'll always have the family home for Christmas, but an Australian style Christmas where it's in summer, you drink white wine in the sun sort of thing. Like all the women drink like this chilled white wine. Guys are drinking beer or whatever, or your own wine. And, it's this very Australian summer Christmas that we have, which is, I think, absolutely brilliant, by the way. Now that I've experienced winter Christmases.
Wholeheartedly disagree.
Right. Well, I've experienced the winter Christmas. I get the appeal, and I do. Yes, it's cozy, it's nice, but I still love the Australian Christmas a lot more. I just like the whole being able to go to the beach, and the best thing about it, and I'm saying this as someone who expects to one day become a father, to have a child, and be able to give that child their Christmas presents, things like a super soaker or a bicycle, or maybe some sort of rollerblades or something like that. Being able to give it to the kid and say, now get the fuck out of the house and leave mummy and daddy to drink their wine and their beer, and you play with the other kids and just leave us alone for the rest. And you sit and talk to the other parents in your neighborhood or whatever, but the kids are off doing their own thing, and you finally get some peace and quiet from them because you gave them a toy that will entertain them for the next few weeks during the summer holidays, and they will be in the backyard and you just don't have to deal with them.
Well, something similar happens in Croatia as well, but mostly kids get firecrackers and fireworks.
Yeah, but that only lasts 10 minutes, and then they're done, and they're back inside the house pestering you.
Depends how much you buy.
Yeah.
But you can also buy
here's a barrel of TNT.
Ice skates, sleds.
Yeah,
whatever.
but they get cold and stuff. And see, with the Christmas thing, you don't have to worry about catching colds, and you don't have to worry about them.
Yeah, but it's
sick.
Australia. You can worry about them catching spiders and venomous snakes and shit.
One less, it's quick, it's easy, it's done. But, 20 minutes, you don't have kids.
But
but to go back, sorry. So Tim Minchin, absolutely love his stuff, and I love his it's very intellectual sort of humor, and that's what I also like. It's very different comedy. Like Doug Anthony also has is very crass. It's very shock value. But it's very funny. And then you have Tim Minchin, much more intellectual, much more questioning things or making fun of ideology, stuff like that. But to go back when you were saying what you first got into, I would have to say the first music comedy or comedy music would have to be Weird Al Yankovic. Who, by the way, is having a movie made about him, and playing Weird Al Yankovic, if I recall correctly, is Daniel Radcliffe.
This I don't know. In my head, I've heard of the movie, and in my head, I think it was James Franco, but I'm not sure why it came to my mind that it's James Franco playing him.
I think it's listeners, if you are listening and you have an opinion, please put it into our Instagram, our Twitter, or our Facebook.
Who should play Weird Al?
Oh, who is actually playing Weird Al? Because I am way too lazy to actually look this up on the old Google.
The good old internet.
Yeah, the good old internet. Oh, the internet. But nonetheless, I'm pretty sure it's Daniel Radcliffe, though. Because I remember thinking, what? No, he doesn't have the face. It's the wrong shape. What the hell?
It is the wrong shape.
Yeah. I really, really like Daniel Radcliffe as a comedic actor. I've been watching him in, Miracle Workers and things. He is great. I'm actually really enjoying him. I want to watch the movie where he plays a corpse. I really want to watch that film. But I've actually really enjoyed it more than the Harry Potter shit. I'm just whatever, boy, wizard, who cares? As a comedic actor, I love this guy. He is great. So, he kind of reminds me a little bit of a Hugh Grant sort of style, a bit bumbly, but not annoying as Hugh Grant. So actually, I would say even better. Hugh Grant, oddly enough, has become actually a proper actor in the sense of really not playing the bumbly with the gentleman and things like that. I was like, that's Hugh Grant? No way. And then the one where he was the married guy and there was the dead girl, and he did the series, and it was a serious one. It was a drama. He was brilliant in that. Amazing. Anyway,
really great dramatic actor. Yeah, I saw him in such heavy movies as Paddington 2. He was really serious in that.
He was in that?
Yeah.
Wow, that might have been the beginning of his turn.
Maybe,
His evolution.
Yeah, Weird Al. I was always aware of him, and I know definitely some of his parody songs.
Well, they're almost all parody songs. No, actually, no, that's wrong, because he has done polka songs that are original, but they're still comedic.
Well,
but
they're covers.
For the parody.
They're covers of the pop songs, but in a polka style. But then he also has the parodies where he's white and nerdy, and stuff this.
Eat it.
Yeah.
Beat It became Eat It and all that,
But
Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit. He did a parody of that, didn't he? Yes, he did, because I remember Kurt Cobain, when people were how do you feel? Because it was you're a serious band. He was like, if you're being parodied by Weird Al Yankovic, that is the tick. That's better than getting an Academy or whatever what is it?
Grammy.
Grammy. He's like, that's almost better than getting a Grammy. If he wants to cover your wants to parody your song, then you know you've written a song that's captured the moment.
Was Weird Al already a thing while Kurt Cobain was still alive? Damn. Man's been around for
Weird Al
ages.
Yankovic has been around since the 80s, man. Beat It
Well, yeah.
by
that
Michael
makes
Jackson.
sense.
That's like early mid 80s.
Yeah,
He's been
yeah.
around for a long time.
But-
Weird Al is actually really old, but he looks great for his age.
I think that's where the generation gap between us kicks in a bit, because I've never I've heard his individual songs,
Yeah.
but never really listened to like an album or a thing. Again, it was mostly like you catch something on YouTube that's a parody of a currently popular song and stuff like this. Actually, I lied when I said about those. Not lied, but I kind of forgot when I talked about the my first contact with, because before that, when I was maybe 12, 13, my first contact with musical comedy was this weird Serbian rapper called Voodoo Popeye. And he would like make this rap songs that were just silly. Like they weren't even like proper funny, like smart funny, as some kind of later, like Lil Dicky, a rapper, but he would like make what he calls like stand-up rap, like a rap song that's a joke with a punchline, this kind of stuff, or like Lonely Island, or like Bo Burnham would rap sometimes and so on. No, it was just silly. It was kind of like, oh, I walk down the street and I see a duck, but the duck doesn't see me, and what the fuck? Like, I don't know, this kind of, I mean, it obviously had some punchlines and twists, but it was, it was more like goofy and silly than intelligent and convoluted. But
unlike Lonely Island.
Yeah, unlike, which is like super
Cerebral.
Cerebral. That's the word I was planning.
Jizz in my pants. Totally up there. It's like, wow, you just blew my mind.
I'm on a boat. What? I'm on a boat. I'm on a boat.
Well, that's talking about the class structures and the elitist 1%. Like the whole point of once you make it, you don't care about those below you, and you actually start kind of showing off. You start spruiking your own, like, I'm on a boat. Obviously, this is about the wealth gap between the 1% and the rest of us.
I mean,
it is so
Jizz in
deep.
My Pants is also, it's about the gender equality and about the fact that even a pure kind of eye contact or a touch from a woman can make you ejaculate, because that's how oppressed men are in society. They lack that touch and feeling,
and we just don't know how to ask for it, so we end up just jizzing in our
your
pants.
It's
really, we should communicate in a much more open and frank way, like, hey, I would like to jizz in my pants, and then,
but not just in my pants. That's mother lover. It's just I'm a mother lover, you're a mother lover, we could fuck each other's mothers. It talks about the matriarchy and the role of mothers in society, and how we can celebrate Mother's Day not once a year, but by letting our friend fuck our mother, every day can be a Mother's Day. So I would say that it's a very, very subtle but very heavy political and social commentary.
Right, yeah.
But but that's the thing with, I mean, sometimes it works if it's just kind of silly and fun, because a lot of their songs sounded like real good pop songs. The production value was high and stuff. But sometimes I like some of these musical comedians because that's the vessel, right? That's the platform they're using. But I think it's much harder. Sometimes it's easier, but sometimes it's much harder to be really funny if you're using music, because then, like, because while you're talking, you can speed up a bit and come to the punchline before the audience does. But when you're singing, so sometimes it has to be so well written that like Bo Burnham, his songs, right? Because he's singing and the punchline still has to be a twist and people not to get it from the rhyme. Because if you hear the first bar and it ends like, I don't know, food, then and the next line cannot be, and they all say that I'm a gay dude or something, because you expect it. So that it still has to be a tricky little kind of twist and stuff like this. One person that does this really well, I would say, I wouldn't call him a musical comedian, but he's super, super talented and plays like, I don't know, 50 different instruments and incorporates this in his act a lot, is Bill Bailey. And I just watched his latest special. It's on YouTube. It's available on BBC channel, I think.
Yeah.
And again, he does a lot of different kinds of comedy as well. Not just, he doesn't just sing songs, but he does like music. He likes to play music. He has even like bits of his show that are not comedy. It's just him like doing a solo instrumental or something like this. Yeah. But I would say that he uses that so well and is so in such a moderate way that it just complements his already funny and well-written jokes, right? It's not like a crutch.
Yeah.
So that's what I appreciate. I don't appreciate though when there is a person just using music as a prop, and it doesn't really go anywhere. It's just there to distract you from how poorly written jokes are.
Well, yeah, some people, I have heard of some comedians basically don't like musical comedians because they think it's a bit of a cheat code to a degree. Like you're saying it makes it harder and it requires more talent to do it. But then other comedians will say, well, no, it's easier to get the laugh out of it because you have that natural rhythm. Like we were talking before, like this, the rhythm of how you speak. When you're doing a set, you have to find the right rhythm that works for your joke, the right pauses, things like that. Music comes with its own set rhythms. It's almost like it's intuitive, and music is a way, and it has, like, this is how it evolved. Music evolved as a way of getting communities to work together in unison. You dance together, you play music, you harmonize, your brain waves join together. Like when people are in a band, science has shown that, their brain waves become in sync. And this is how, bands can kind of feel each other. It's the vibe and stuff like that, because they end up getting in sync with one another and they can kind of feel each other's feelings of momentum. And that's what music can do when used in musical comedies. It gets the audience much more quickly engaged in your rhythm, seeing things and feeling it from your, and they generally will go with the flow. And even if they can't kind of predict what's going to come, they will still involuntarily laugh or even at least get the feel-good emotions from that line, even if they've spotted it beforehand, because it's almost like they're on autopilot and they can't help themselves. They can become in sync with everyone else, like with the comedian and with the rest of the audience. So there is an argument to say that some comedians think it's a bit of a crutch or that it's an easy tool to use.
Well, I would say there are definitely advantages to it, because when you are at a show, and if it's like a, big stage to fill, for example, and Bill Bailey and Tim Minchin and so on performed with actual orchestras and stuff, that then you have that whole other level of, this is some real theater shit. It's not just some, small bar, one comic on stage. And or people like Adam Sandler, who released a special on Netflix a few years back where he also had like a band on stage playing and so on. You get that kind of more feeling of this is proper entertainment, right? And I think it's
a show.
Yeah, and even if it's just a guy with a guitar, it's still, you're not just a guy with a microphone, because pure stand-up is just one person, microphone, and a stool, and it's very dry, and you have to fill that whole room, that first of all, that whole stage and that whole room with energy. But here you already have an instrument, like a literal musical instrument, to help you with that, because when you're playing anything, if it has some rhythm, if it has some melody, people, as you said, like vibe, they
it's all about the vibe, man.
They know their head, they're like move a little bit, they already, it helps with that kind of getting the audience going, and you have that, you remove that dryness of normal stand-up, you lubricate stand-up, if you will. But I would say that, I don't think it's fair of saying that it's a crutch or it's cheat code, because it only works if it's done properly. So if you just kind of come there and tell some shitty jokes with a guitar, you're still gonna bomb. So it's not really that by default this will make you a funny comedian.
No, but the thing is that what they're saying is that some comedians, like for example, a joke that is not wonderful, it's okay, but it's not great. But you add it with like a rhythm, you play the guitar, stuff like that. It can, to say that joke might be a joke that you only get like a third of the time you get laughs out of it, for example, right? The other 2/3 people just go, But if you add music to it, you're going to increase the laugh rate, how often you get the chuckle out of it. Because it's going to be a lot of involuntary chuckles where people just get into that zone and they just laugh because it's expected, or they just kind of fall into it. Even though genuinely, if you were to give them the exact same joke without that rhythm, without that, flow, they would basically be like, no, that's really lame. That's no.
I think it's really puts it, because we're talking here about like creme de la creme, right? Of the musical comedy. People like Tim Minchin. People like Tim Minchin, Bill Bailey, Bo Burnham, Lonely Island, Weird Al, people who made careers out of this, are famous, are rich and popular, right? Well known. Adam Sandler, not to mention Jack Black, and so on.
Yeah, I was about to say Tenacious D and Flight of the Conchords. Jermaine Clement came out of that. Brett McKenzie, I think his name, didn't quite make it as big, but I also know that Taika Waititi's like their friend, and I think he was involved in actually creating Flight of the Conchords TV series, I think, or in some way. Maybe producer or maybe a writer. I'm not sure. But the whole thing is like, there's those. The other point I would like to bring out now, talking about these groups like Flight of the... Oh, okay. Sorry.
I just started. So we're talking about... Give me a chance to speak my mind. So we're talking about the best in the industry, right?
Yeah.
But how it's really, as you said, that if it was that easy, not that easy, but it definitely helps when you have that music, that rhythm and so on.
Like you said, lubricates.
Yeah.
Like
it really
Mother's Day.
It really puts it into perspective when you watch people do musical comedy poorly.
Yeah.
And I kind of stopped recently because it became really, really, really bad. But for, I don't know, a period of maybe 10 years, I watched every season of Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent, those kind of shows, because they were quite entertaining and there were some really good acts, especially comedy. And I would always kind of watch it and think, oh, this is like a good platform.
I can steal that bit.
Yeah, no, this is a good, if I ever do decide to kind of go big and try myself on such, this is a good platform. And I would kind of watch it. It was also, not only comedy, but some like magic, some this and that, like ventriloquist. It was, sometimes there were really good acts on it, right? But there would be from like time to time some musical comedy acts, and really that's their whole shtick. The guy can play the guitar. Like the jokes are just meh. Like there's nothing there. Or they come with like a piano or something and they just accompany their jokes and it just falls flat and they almost never went through because you can see that, it's just
even with that crutch, it's still wasn't
it's
enough.
just a Hail Mary. Like I'm a mediocre comedian, so I brought a loop pedal and a guitar. Like it's just
pedal?
A loop pedal.
Oh, okay. Not a lube pedal.
No, that's why would you need a pedal for that? Imagine that. Okay, never mind.
You need a lot. The pedal helps pump out more.
But trademark David Munoz. We will get to like patenting that, the loop pedal.
The lube pedal.
But so it's really, once you see those kind of acts, you really see that it's not all, like how would you say that? It's not.
I mean, it doesn't work 100%. Like, just adding a guitar is not going to turn a shithouse comedian into a brilliant comedian.
It's not that easy.
But I'm just saying that, like, for example, a very basic joke could kind of maybe enhance it, mixed with a bunch of others. Like, you might get a higher laugh rate. Even though it's not great laugh rate, it might increase a little bit. But now the other thing I would like to bring up, one thing I was just thinking about now, actually, when bringing up all these particular group comedians, Lonely Island, but more particular, like Flight of the Conchords, Doug Anthony All-Stars, Tenacious D, and what was the other one I was thinking of? Oh, Axis of Awesome, and these other ones. One thing I have noticed, they almost all have, like, it's not just the jokes, it's not just the songs, that are funny. All of them have a persona. They interact on stage, like even in between, the banter and everything is part of the show. It's not just guys getting up there who are themselves and going, right, okay, we're just going to play some funny songs. Okay, here's song number one. Da-da-da-da-da. Here's a song that we got about, that we've written about the gender pay gap in a funny way. Da-da-da-da. And then the joke. No, they have like a thing. They have banter. There's scripted dialogue. Each one of them has their own persona, their own character, which is not who they really are in real life. Like it's an exaggeration or even sometimes absolute just made up persona. So for example, Doug Anthony All-Stars, Paul McDermott was the angry guy who was like pissed off at the other members of the band and kind of, you felt like he had the biggest ego and that he felt like everyone else was holding him back. You had Richard, who was the idiot, who was the moron of the group, who was like the dumb savant who played the guitar. And I've forgotten his name now, but the other one, he was the beautiful one. But they all had their personas. They interacted with each other. The other two would gang up on the third guy, make fun of him because he was the idiot. And I've noticed, like, Flight of the Conchords, Jermaine and Brett's characters, they have a very distinctive, they had a whole TV show based on it. I'm just wondering, like, is it a sensual sort of thing? Like, obviously, I've noticed that it's not just when it comes to a musical band like Tenacious D as well. It's them, but it's not them. It's caricatures of them. Do you think that's part of it then? Like, as a band, it's not just the songs that are comedy. The band is comedic. The band is a joke.
I mean, Weird Al is definitely, that's not him. You know what I mean? Like, that's a character.
To a degree, yeah, he's an exaggeration.
You see that, like Lonely Island, like Andy Samberg is not Andy Samberg. He's playing this, like, I mean, in each kind of song. And
Andy
video,
Samberg is playing Andy Samberg.
Yeah, but he's playing
a version of him.
Yeah, the they're not. But I think in general,
crass, immature Andy Samberg.
Because I think in stand-up, in classic stand-up, you also many comics play a character, but you're still you play a down-to-earth character, or you play a really really kind of far-fetched, you know what I mean, like end of the spectrum kind of character. So if you are Marcel Lupin and you are like this French person, or if you are whatever, like
what is it, the publican one? Oh God,
Republican
Alan
one?
Moore, is that his name?
Did you say Republican one?
No, publican.
Oh,
runs a pub. The landlord publican. What's his name? British guy. Anyway, he plays like the guy who runs a pub, and he always has the beer in his hand, and he talks really loud, and sometimes like some racist stuff and things like that. And this is like the guy they asked, like, do you feel good? Because he himself is not. He's a very intelligent guy, and he's like, well, the way I figured is those people really don't realize that I'm playing a character, and they really believe that I actually have these kind of views. Thank you for the money. I've just taken money from you, you moron.
It's the kind of comic that is this.
But they're proper characters.
From Mrs. Maisel, there's this comic who dresses up as a kind of loud woman from Queens, where she's actually a very rich, very kind of talented Juilliard actress, but she's just playing a character, right?
Exactly.
But this is, I think, so.
That's like one extreme.
In real stand-up, it does exist as well, but I think it's either a person being like telling you a real story, and they want you to actually, connect with them on some level, to or it's really just kind of a clown character, just an over-exaggerated over. But when it comes to musical comedy, why I think many of them, it's really a role they play.
It's almost always like with
almost
groups.
Always.
With the groups. With the groups, I think with the individuals, I think it can be a bit more like normal stand-up comedy. Sometimes it's a character, sometimes it's not. But when it comes to the groups, it's scripted down to like the dialogue they have on stage, where everything is a character. It's a play. In a way, it's a whole set. I
think that's because when you add the music to it, and when you add like the lyrics and the beat and the instruments and stuff, it does become more of a show. Yeah. And you need more of that showmanship. You need more like scripted banter. You need more like. But
they definitely play characters, and they're like, they have like these dramas on set, and they have like there's a story going on stage during the act. Like with Doug Anthony All-Stars, it's about Paul slowly losing his shit with the other members of the band. And eventually it all comes to this big crescendo at the end, where there's a bit of a fisticuffs between them, and the whole thing happens, and then and then finally they come back for the big crescendo of the last song. Like the song gets ruined, just like Paul says they're going to ruin it, because they always do it every fucking time. And then it finally all collapses, and then finally they come back for the big crescendo, and then Paul is the one who ruins it. Like after everything complained, but he's the one that loses it, and the others are looking at him going, you've ruined the song.
But even for example, Bo Burnham's last two specials, the one that was shot and edited and produced and everything by himself at home inside, was it, or something like this during the pandemic, and the one before that as well, which was like a big kind of theater stage production. They were all planned and acted out and rehearsed and everything down to, it was a very kind of, it was a show.
Yeah.
It wasn't just stand-up. It was a show. It was very, lights, camera, smoke, music, everything. And I think if you watch Bill Bailey's last show, the same. Like he has people coming out on stage, like the opera singer comes and joins him for a song. Then people bring him out like this kind of drums, that kind of like instrument. Yeah. It just changes. It's a whole show, like kind of more like in lines of a theater
and
or
the way
a music
he interacts
concert.
with them, the way he interacts, for example, the opera singer, is it scripted? Can you tell it's scripted, or like is there deliberate jokes and scripted things in between them, or is it just, and then he welcomes a opera singer who just joins him?
Well, in this case, it's just a guest. So while he's doing one of his funny songs.
Yeah.
She's singing the chorus, I think.
Yeah,
in this
this is what I mean. Like
with
with the group ones, there's actually that banter. It's scripted. Like when they go on the stage, off the stage, everything is scripted to the last. Like even to when they're hitting each other, it's all part of the plan. Like as in, it's a play. I
would
guess that's
say-
what I'm trying to get to. It's
Yeah.
they play characters like in a play. They have their script, they have their dialogue, and they have the songs that it just happen to fit because it helps them fit the songs and all of them connect in that way.
I would say it's also because that kind of comedy has much bigger potential of actually becoming
Musical
like
theater.
a theater,
Yeah.
or even better, a TV show, or even better, a movie.
Actually,
And
Doug Anthony All-Stars did become a TV show. Was a TV show for a bit.
That's
yes.
that's where, like, Tenacious D comes in. That's where
Yeah.
Adam
Flight of the
Sandler's some of his movies feature him like singing
Yeah.
and being this kind of. That's where
Wedding Singer.
Lonely
Literally.
Island, like Pop Star, is a whole movie.
Really? I have not seen that.
You haven't seen Pop Star?
No.
Oh my God. Never stopping. It's a
Ah.
whole movie about Adam Sandler being a pop star.
Wait,
sorry,
I
not
thought-
Andy Samberg. Sorry,
Right,
It's
okay.
a whole movie about Andy Samberg being a pop star,
Yeah.
and it's a bunch of just funny songs in that movie that they wrote and produced as Lonely Island. But they made a big budget movie
Yeah.
where he's doing that, and so Jack Black, in many of his movies, he's School of Rock
Yeah.
and stuff like this. He's playing instruments. He's doing these funny little songs. So yeah, it's a much better platform to get some
and
kind
Flight
of
of the Conchords, the whole TV series was based around there. So they were the struggling musicians who wanted to make it big in inverted commas. But yeah, no, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think because of it has again that higher showmanship value, production value, play value. It's easier to transform onto like small or big screen and maybe cash in. If it's just a guy doing stand up, then it can become at best a stand up special.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I think once you get, especially into the group element, I think it stops being stand up as such and becomes more theater, comical theater, comedy theater.
Yeah.
But it definitely kind of, I think the more people get involved, the further away from just stand up it becomes. I think you can have, like, for example, Dimitri Martin still doing stand up, but with a guitar.
Yeah.
Right. Then you're going up to like next level where, I think the more you progress, you then going like Steve Martin also did the same sort of thing. You have like these comedians stand up but doing little musical bits every so often. Sam Rhodes, our friend, he does that as well. Like, he mixes in music with his normal stand up. Then you start moving along and you get you people more like Tim Minchin, where it starts becoming more theatrical. There's still stand up in his bits, but all of a sudden it's going more to the stage production side of things. It's going more to the theatrical side of things. And eventually you do end up, especially with groups, I think because of the scripted nature of it, it definitely starts becoming more like a play.
Yeah. So I would say that
Still comedy.
still
Don't
comedy.
be wrong. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it devalues it in any way whatsoever. Oh no, love the stuff. Can't get enough of it. Now I want to watch Popstar so badly.
Yeah, definitely watch it. I mean, it's a little bit. The problem with that movie is that when it came out, it was already 10 years too late for it. Like if it came out in like 2006, I think that movie would be huge because it was really a movie for that kind of era, for the American Pie style of movies.
Yeah.
Just or whatever, like the Adam Sandler kind of movies where it's like I fart, you hit your head, and it's funny. You know what I mean? That kind of. I mean, it's,
Wow,
it's,
reducing Adam Sandler to that. All right.
that is what he is. But so I think it came maybe not 10, but like 5 years too late, and I think some kind of jokes and references were a little bit outdated. But still, I think it's a kind of. It went under the radar, but I think it's an undiscovered gem in this kind of.
Cool.
If you just want a, not deep, not heavy, just kind of on the surface, simple and funny movie, it's really good in that regard. And the songs are pretty funny and kind of memorable and catchy and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think one thing I think maybe to wrap up this topic, if we talk about just purely maybe stand up or comedy in a sense of comedy is a very broad term, like a Police Academy, it's a comedy, it's a movie, but it's a comedy movie. Theater, improv, a whole bunch of stuff like those funny songs, comedy rap like Lil Dicky is comedy. But if we talk about stand up and musical stand up comedy, right, I think there was a very big kind of maybe rise in, I don't know, was it demand or supply? Like, did people want it and then it appeared, or did it just appear by itself and then people kind of started consuming it? But I would say maybe 10 years ago or something, I would see a lot of kind of comics that come out with guitars, with keyboards, with something like this. But now I see it really less and less. And I think out of the Netflix specials or something that came out in the last 2 years, 1 or 2 maybe feature some music in them. And it seems like it's not that popular anymore. But I always thought that, if you can properly merge those 2 things, do it. I don't think it's some kind of hack or a cheat code. I think if you can play an instrument and you can smartly write lyrics that are also a bit, right, that also have like setup and punchline and that twist and the shock and surprise and will get people laughing, perfect. I always enjoyed it. But if you're going to do it properly, if you're just going to do it because, you are afraid to stand there by yourself with a microphone, so you bring a guitar, then maybe better don't do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. I agree with you with the whole thing. If you can, why not? I mean, incorporate it, try it out. And it doesn't have to be your main thing. Like we were discussing, like some people, it was just something they incorporated. So Dimitri Martin, Steve Martin, Sam Rhodes, all these guys who they just occasionally will just throw in a bit. It doesn't have to be the main set. It doesn't like, oh, great. Well, the moment you pick up a guitar, well, that's going to be a whole set. You have to have the guitar. You have to play. No. You just do it as you wish, as much as you like. If you want to do one whole song, fine. If you want to do like a snippet, great. If you want to do 3 snippets, fine, whatever. But why not? I don't say anything wrong with it at all. And if you get the chuckles, you get the laugh. The whole point is you're trying to make the audience laugh. So who cares how it's done, as long as you're not being cruel or mean about it.
Yeah, but as we only mentioned, really maybe top 10, I think, kind of popular and already exposed and established comedians and actors and musicians who do kind of musical comedy. If you have any recommendations of someone we don't know and we haven't mentioned, because I think it's a kind of...
This is sort of untapped in a way. It's not untapped, but it's, like you said, goes under the radar a lot of the times. And there are some that when you find, like I didn't find out about Bo Burnham until much. I remember I'd heard about him before, then I forgot about him. And then when he brought up the whole COVID thing, I was like, oh yeah, this guy. I was like, oh my God, yeah, he's so good. And then I was like, oh yeah, I should actually watch some of his other stuff because I've kind of missed it or avoided it. I didn't even know about this Pop Stars thing, right? I know a lot of my friends, I always recommend Flight of the Conchords. I introduced it to my wife and she loved that show. And it's a great show, Flight of the Conchords. It's so funny and brilliant done, but so understated. So, it's New Zealand humor and it's just perfect epitome. Jermaine Clement, Rhett McKenzie, just absolutely brilliant. So I'd really recommend it, sort of thing. And then there's old ones, like I said before, Doug Anthony All-Stars and stuff. One of my personal favorites when I was a kid. Very hard to find. I think the show was called Dead and Loving It or something. No, Dead and something. But it was very hard to find. I still haven't found a downloadable copy, and I think it's usually VHS rip. It's so, but it was a lot of fun, and that's what I mean. They're really enjoyable. The things that you can enjoy, just like this podcast. And if you really enjoy this podcast, then you can even help support us by throwing some money our way on Patreon. Thank you very much. And also leaving comments, opinions. As Igor was saying, you can basically say, hey, here are some other musical acts that you may not have realized or remembered or just forgotten about it. How dare you? I will now hunt you down, which we think is a little excessive, and please don't do that. But please leave comments on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. Anything else am I forgetting?
Or on Podbean, our main platform where we publish our podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Igor Monday.
And I've been David Munoz.
Goodbye.
Ciao.